Sisters and brothers, ladies and gentlemen, friends, neighbors, comrades, all citizens of the world, wherever you're going, wherever you've been, and wherever you're at, we welcome you to the Live from the Heartland show here on YouTube. New episodes air every Friday at 9 a.m. Central Time with individual interviews posted throughout the following week. I'm your host, Michael James, encouraging you to take the chain from the brain, to get back in the people's game, because it's time to move from the lower level to the higher, from the shallower to the deeper, from the one-sided to the many, and from the abstract to the concrete. So without further ado, let's get it on. Welcome all you citizens of the world. It's time for another edition of Live from the Heartland. I'm Michael James, and I'm up here in the 49th Ward in Chicago. We are very blue, and we are recording this on the 19th for the week of March 21st. We have a really good lineup today. We're going to have our producer, sometimes co-host Katy Hogan, with a little bit of a political roundup, things that can be done, that need to be done, that you can help do. We're going to have cousin Adam James, with his sports report. And we're going to have Finn Halpern, who works with Heirloom Books here on the north side, here in Rogers Park. And he's going to talk to us about an event that Heirloom Books is having on Allen Ginsberg and the poem Howl. So stay tuned for a lot of good information from three really good guests. A couple of things I would like to share. It's been another harrowing week on the mega takeover front. There have been horrendous things taking place, as well as some great pushback, and we'll hear some of that from Katy. I would like to, in memoriam, mention that our comrade, brother, Pipe, known as Richard Croft, is his real name, has passed away. He was a longtime member and leader in Rising Up Angry. I first met him when he was in the band Taxi, and they were playing in the playground over at Burley School on Berry Street in Lakeview. And we're very sorry that he has passed. He did a lot of good work, and our hearts go out to his kids, Jessame and Casey. One good thing that I would like to share is, instead of watching every bit of basketball I could absorb last night, just before we record, I watched a documentary called Fly With Me, and it's a story of pioneering women who became flight attendants. A lot of civil rights, a lot of women's rights, a lot of organizing information. It's really a good thing in the American Adventure series. I encourage you to check it out. On the bad front, I got to say, I watched BBC footage on the aftermath of Israel's bombing of Gaza. And over 400 people were killed. It came in the middle of the night with no warning. People have been, there's been no food coming in there. It's a dire situation. It is pure out genocide. And the rest of the world needs to take some kind of a stand. It's going to be difficult when we have Trump and Netanyahu basically in bed together on this. So that's a lot of lead up. Let's take a short musical break, and we'll have our good friend Katy Hogan coming on, and we'll delve into politics and things that you and I can do together to make things better. Be right back.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us.
Welcome back, all you citizens of the world. It's time for our first guest, and I'm always glad when Katy Hogan my longtime partner in business and in producing this show, comes on the show. I meet with her regularly because we're working on a book about the Heartland Cafe, and I know she feels a lot of angst, I would say, around the world situation these days. And she's full of information in trying to improve the situation. So I said, how about you come on the show? Or she said, I should come on the show. Good morning to you, Katy Hogan.
Really, I'm the one that's responsible for this? Okay, I'll take it. Good morning back to you, Michael. And since you told me I'd be on the show earlier this week, I've grabbed as much as I could of material. I have folders of stuff that I have printed out because I thought it would be useful for people. And I have to admit, I have lost my lesson of not printing stuff out. I used to be much more of a printer outer, and then I learned to save it on my computer, and if I never opened it, then I could toss it out then, but without having used. Anyway, I got all this printed material. It just made me more confused. I did start a list of outrages on our little notebook thing, which went on too long, and I couldn't, it was too depressing. But in case you forgot, people, we started this outrages January 20th with cabinet nominees, none of whom are qualified for the position that they were put in. Everyone knows this. But the cabinet nominees and other department head nominees were the first sign that things were not going to go according to plan. Then there were the presidential pardons of the January 6th attackers. Now we are 2 months later, he's wanting to look into and possibly prosecute the people who prosecuted the January 6th invaders. That's where we are there. Going on down the list, there was the deportation mess that began. We were momentarily delighted by confounding the deportation czar. He's the man who said out loud on tape, "Oh, the Chicagoans, they're too well educated. They've got this thing called Know Your Rights," which we translate into how to not go to jail. And we're all sitting there going, duh, yeah, that's the idea. Since they are trying to deport people in many, many cases who are absolutely have a right to be here. They have their green card. They may even be citizens. They are sweeping up people. And they're doing it more in other places because Chicago is too hard for them. But believe me, they'll be back. The OMB freeze, and then the absent any explanation, of course, much less, here's the reason we are closing things because of these numbers, et cetera. We all know that they are not going after targets that are spending, wasting, and blowing cash. For that, they would have to go across the street to the Pentagon, which they have not even talked about doing, much less doing. No, they're going for programs that actually help and prop up to the extent they can people who are in the most needy positions, not just in this country, but on the planet. The USAID thing left so many people across the planet high and dry. And these are programs that take very little money to actually carry out on the ground. Very little money. But they worked. We're talking the AIDS programs in Africa, the food for children in famine-riddled areas. It's incredible. Okay, then the abdication of DEI, which we've seen all manner of response to, and some of it is making its way through the courts. Let's see what else we got here. Musk's little minions with their hands on our data and the Treasury Department. Then they started the tariffs. What a fun little up and down that has been. That's totally on Trump. He wants tariffs. And then he wakes up the next day and says, maybe not. And then he wakes up the next day and says, yeah, tariffs for sure on everybody who's ever been good to us, Mexico, Canada, et cetera. And then he'll say, well, maybe in 30 days. You know what that yanking around to people's livelihoods and actual money they depend on is doing? It's creating the chaos they wanted it to. And so let's see. I don't have to, everybody knows all the outrages, but I just wanted to remind you. And, and then we have the insulting image of Vance speaking in Europe like he knows anything. That it's just outrageous and so embarrassing and so appalling. And, Americans that care and that are paying attention. We have to remember there's a big chunk of Americans who don't give a flying you-know-what. They didn't vote in November, and they're sitting at home pretending that watching video games or movies or God knows what they do. I hope they play with their grandchildren, because if they keep not paying attention, their grandchildren will have a terrible life ahead of them in this country. So anyway, what have we done? What have we been doing to resist? Well, right off the bat in our neighborhood, Protect Rogers Park 2.0 was established. That's protect the people who are most in danger by the ICE raids and other deportation threats. So PRP 2.0 was in place right away, thanks to having done it 8 years ago when he first came on the scene and threatened mostly Latino Americans in our city, but many other nationals are threatened by this. Actually, any national of color, frankly, any national of color, Haitian, etc., they're under threat by this government, who is a white man's situation. Just remember where Musk came from, and let's learn more about how he was when our hero Mandela was let out of prison. Okay, so we worked with PRP. We learned what we had to learn. We got Know Your Rights cards printed up and passed out. We put butterflies on our windows. The monarchs are the symbol of this is a safe place for you if you're running from ICE. We have interrupted ICE proceedings, and that's good. And that has to continue, because they will continue. And just by the way, when they go out to grab somebody, God knows where they got this list of the somebodies. They're not lawbreakers, by the way. They're not picking up all the rapists and the robbers and the things that they've been trying to make you believe that most.
One of the things that a lot of us have hope for is the courts. That Biden did appoint a number of federal judges, even the Supreme Court. Roberts came out this week and was critical of Trump wanting to impeach the judge that had told him they couldn't deport people, these Venezuelan so-called gang members. They flew them to El Salvador, but apparently they broke the law on that. So there has been a lot of pushback in the legal realm. There was a judge who blocked a policy that would expel transgender troops, which another thing he did. And there's just recently, I think this morning, they moved the case of the Columbia graduate student who was at Palestine demonstrations at Columbia, and they were trying to deport him. They took him to Louisiana. The court said he has to be brought back to New Jersey, and that's where that will be dealt with. They haven't charged him with anything. They're just deporting him.
Right. A lot of these actions, by the way, just what you said, the Trump administration has never stopped to check what's legal and what's not, what's abdication of habeas corpus and what's not. They don't care. They're just going after the people they see as enemies or scary to them. And it has absolutely nothing to do with waste, fraud, and abuse of funds. It has everything to do with these guys having this fantasy world that they think they can build, which is, of course, impossible. Somebody at some point has to tap them on the shoulder and go, yo, dingbat, white people are a minority on the planet. You may win today, but you are definitely going to lose sometime, and worse because of what you're doing. So, yeah, the other thing about immigrants' rights, ICIRR, Illinois Committee for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, is a really great source for our listeners to go to for information in any neighborhood. I know PRP is just Rogers Park centric, but ICIRR is a citywide group. ACLU is a group you should be giving $5 a month to. Those lawyers are the ones at work right now in all the cases that Michael's talking about, and many that are just under the surface at the moment, but have been brought against the Trump administration. There will be many, many more.
I think that they're really trying to just break us down, have us going this way and that way, get depressed. They are trying to basically destroy the federal government structure. Like a judge just issued a ruling to rehire thousands of people that have been fired.
Right.
But the question is, will they be refired again? That's a possibility. We see retreats even in the military where over the DEI question, diversity, equity, and inclusion, they eliminated 26,000 photographs. I think you told me that initially, in references to women and people of color. And they've scaled that back and put some of it up. But they're just really bombarding us with terrible things, whether they're working and achieving their goal of supposedly making things more efficient and saving money. We know it's clearly an effort of destruction.
Yeah,
and I think that what's important is we resist. And I think, why don't you share a little bit about how the resistance is going on both in the electoral or on the political level, as well as the movement in the streets. I mean, we have elections coming up that you have been, about.
I'll tell you. There's an election in 2 weeks in Wisconsin for Supreme Court Justice. Susan Crawford is the person that we're supporting. We are going up and knocking doors in Milwaukee every Saturday. There are 2 Saturdays left as I speak. If you hear this on Friday, it's not too late to sign up. Go to Operation Swing State or Indivisible. Either one of those are going up to Wisconsin every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We're also phoning into Wisconsin for the Supreme Court race. Elon Musk will have a very bad day if we win. That is the motivation that I'm using at the door. And when I say that to voters at the door, their eyes light up. America wants to give Elon Musk a very bad day. So April 1st in Wisconsin, right after that, same thing, and a Supreme Court race for 2 seats on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court will also be absolutely integral to beating back these guys. The other stuff that we've been doing, we've already been downtown to march a couple times and to rally. There will be a nationwide rally April 5th, Saturday, April 5th. Everybody should plan to be in their town, out in the streets, in big numbers. That's off in the future, but not that far in the future. Between now and then, people should know if they want to gather with neighbors on a decent intersection near their house with homemade signs, flags, whether upside down or upright, doesn't matter, but saying, we are not good with this. The more Americans that are visibly saying we are not good with this, Musk should, the hands off is the theme of the April 3rd. Hands off our money, hands off our government, hands off, which is good. We also could just say enough is enough. But so anyway, standing out on the corners is something happening nationwide starting Thursday, the equinox, actually, equal day, equal night, which is tomorrow. But when you hear this show, anyway, every Thursday night from 7 to 7:30 in your time zone, stand out with neighbors. Soon that will become a bigger thing. You will see it grow. The 5 Calls app, it's called 5 Calls, great tool. And some of you don't believe in calling Washington, D.C. I don't know why not. It makes a huge difference. Even if, as some of you say to me, well, why should I call Jan? She's doing great work. That's our congresswoman in the 9th CD in Chicago. Call her to say, thank you for doing good work. And how can you drag a few Republicans over, if there are any reasonable Republicans, and we support you, keep doing it, because she gets to then go into her congressional committee meeting or the actual the Congress in session and say, I get this many calls a day saying WTF about this administration in various ways. I will never be able to not work on this because my people are telling me to keep doing it. So 5 calls is definitely something you want to check out. Heather Cox Richardson, of course, Letters from an American is an incredible education. It's also one of those things like reading Robert Reich that makes you go, oh, but we should be going like that. It is desperately serious. Yeah, Michael, go ahead. Interrupt.
Well, in a few minutes we have left, Katy Hogan. One of the things I've been thinking about, and I thought about it before the last election, was having people like from small towns or larger towns in red states go home and spend some time working to register voters and to talk to people. It came up again for me, and I remembered, Vietnam summer. I remember the civil rights summer back in '64, where a lot of students and people of conscience went to the South. And I think that something like that would be good to start to set that up so that the next year, before the 2026 elections, we might have, turned some tables. And
well, you're right.
how we would go about doing that is just an idea from an old guy. But I do think there are other people who are thinking about that, and that really would challenge us to really talk to people and, make contact and friendship. I mean, I remember when you went to Parma, Ohio, working for Obama, and some people you came back around and saw a few times, and they changed with that contact. And you actually won the district, and Obama took the state. That's a thought.
Well, I love the notion of turning what we all knew 60 years ago as Mississippi summer into a, democracy summer, if you will, or summer for the Republic. I really don't know.
Save America summer.
Yeah, right. I don't know the key to getting younger people engaged. That's, to me, the real issue at this moment. I don't know that an old lady like me can stir them up and get them going. I do that for these canvases that we bring up, but in young people in large numbers, I'd like to see out in the street. And what I see in large numbers are a bunch of gray hairs like us. So I'm not sure if it's going to rely on us to save the flippin' union, but I sure would like to see either professors or parents or whoever's in touch with young people, bands, the culture, to see what it is they would like to represent themselves by. I know it's not the same as what we relate to. They're different. This is their time. I want to see them do what they can do. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking a little bit about the impact that the situation in Gaza and the gruesome attacks by the Israeli government on the people of Gaza. It's dividing the world in a lot of ways, and it's dividing at home. And the Democrats clearly did not deal with it when it came up during the last election. They, the little criticism of Israel, but not much. We kept giving them weapons, and they kept unleashing this fury of bombs on people. And that is going to that could bring down the world. It could really change it, because that battle in the Middle East and how it impacts us here at home with Trump going after students, trying to expel people, trying to shut down demonstrations because they're supposedly anti-Semitic. There's a real difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli government, militaristic government. I just think that's going to have a big impact.
Yes, it already has. I mean, it could be the reason that Kamala Harris didn't win the election, for example. It could well be that is the difference that was made. So yeah, you're not wrong about that. And we have had incredible examples of great leadership by Jewish neighbors standing up with the T-shirt saying, "Not in my name." And they don't want Israel to be armed by us anymore. Those are very brave people, because I know for me, it's a pretty fine line to walk with some folks about what you just said, the whole or the Zionism versus how you feel about Netanyahu, who should be put in jail, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, I know we're out of time, and I didn't give you as many ideas as I wanted to give you. So maybe, but everybody should be in the streets in some way this month. Either get out on Thursday night with your neighbors, which is a great way to start. Come out to the April 5th march and rally. That'll be downtown at the Daily Plaza. I'm sure it'll march because I'm sure it's going to be quite large. Americans have to get used to standing up for themselves in the streets again. They've been way not practiced. So that's it.
And long live Canada. We didn't talk about Canada and its attempts to really destroy our longtime friendship with our neighbors to the north. We'll be talking more about all of this, and I'll look forward to seeing you not too far off, Katy Hogan. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll be right back with more Live from the Heartland. Next up is Cousin Adam James, and he's quite a guy with a lot of knowledge about sports and pays a lot of attention to politics. We'll be right back with more Live from the Heartland. Welcome back, you citizens of the world. Time for the second segment of Live from the Heartland for the week of March 21st. And once again, I'm Michael James, and I'm here with my cousin Adam James, who does a monthly sports and film report for us. We got to know each other real well while he was here in Chicago playing football up at Northwestern. He does a lot of things out there on the West Coast. And I'm really glad that he has agreed to participate in this show on a regular basis. So good morning to you out there, Adam James.
It's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me on the Live from the Heartland show. Yes, well, it's springtime, so this is a great time for sports fans. There's a lot of sports happening right now and a lot of sports on the horizon that's really exciting. So obviously springtime for many people means baseball. Yes, baseball is gearing up. And normally this time of year would only be spring training, but we actually have 2 official baseball games already in the can, thanks to the Chicago Cubs and the Los Angeles Dodgers going to Japan and playing this early season games over there in Japan to highlight our wonderful sport and highlight the country of Japan and their incredible players. As you may know, there are 5 players, 3 on the Dodgers, 2 on the Cubs, that are from Japan playing in this special series.
You mentioned springtime, and it's time for baseball. And I just brought back a memory about when I was a kid. I was 10 years old, and I was a Brooklyn Dodger fan. And I remember staying home from school and looking outside at all the snow and just hoping it would melt so we could go out and play baseball. Springtime was baseball time.
Yes, and springtime is a time of dreams and plans and strategizing and hoping. So yes, this is an exciting time. And when this show goes live this weekend, the Dodgers and Cubs will have already played those 2 games. And we already now know that the Dodgers won both those games and that the player Shohei Ohtani played exceptionally well. But all of those Japanese players really shined this weekend. And it's really interesting because, of course, Japanese culture has really embraced the sport of baseball. And it is just amazing to see how well it's doing there in their country and how much it's excelling, of course, here in the United States again. So it's great to see baseball doing well.
In baseball, used to be a lot of African American, not so much. And now we have, people of various races, from South America, from other places, and a lot of people from Korea and Japan now.
Yes.
That's a big shift in the last number of years.
Yes, no doubt about it. There's some really positive things there. Internationally, the sport is doing very well. Japan, as we were just mentioning, is really excelling in the sport and loves that sport. But so do the Koreans. South Korea and Taiwan have great baseball programs. The Central American and the Caribbean countries, as you were just saying. But yes, here in the United States, while the sport is generally doing well on a youth level, you don't see as many African American players because it's not as prevalent in the youth programs. It has to do with the fact that, baseball is a sport that takes a lot of money. You have to gather not just 9 players for your team, but 18, including another team, have all the equipment. There's a little bit more expense. Whereas, for example, the game of soccer, you just need the ball and a bunch of people to come out and play. So, but there is a lot of wonderful things about the sport of baseball, and hopefully it'll continue to thrive. And these young, the coaches of these youth programs continue to excel. Absolutely. Now, this is also an exciting time for another sport, and that's the sport of basketball, because this is March Madness. Yep. So right now we're in the throes of the tournament. It's just starting this weekend when our show goes live. The tournament will be live, and there'll be a lot of action going on in both the men's and women's NCAA tournaments. You got a favorite, Mike? Did you pick a team?
I liked Alabama State knocking off with this. They knocked off St. Francis, where I knew someone who used to coach there.
Yes.
And there's a lot of good games on.
Well, here's the exciting thing, because you mentioned the Big Ten Conference, and there's something really exciting going on for the Big Ten. In the women's side, we have 2 brand new teams to the Big Ten. They're right here from Los Angeles. It's crazy to think that the UCLA Bruins and the USC Trojans are Big Ten teams now, but yes, they are. And on the women's basketball side, they are both phenomenal. There's of course also South Carolina, a bunch of other teams, Notre Dame, that are really terrific. But the USC-UCLA rivalry in town is going to expand to the nation, because these 2 women's teams are loaded. The women's UCLA team has a bunch of great players, including their center, who's just a superstar. And the USC team, of course, has Juju, who is a superstar as well. Really exciting time for women's basketball. Men's tournament, of course, loaded. Lots of great teams there. The Big Ten champion, the Michigan Wolverines, might not win it all, but they are an exciting team to watch, and we'll see how far they go.
Well, there's another sport here that Chicago people are paying attention to. There's a lot of hoopla about the Bears all of a sudden. And while I'm a big watcher of the Bulls, and the Bulls have won 5 out of their last 6,
yes,
the Bears are getting a lot of attention for their draft picks or in their trades, that kind of thing. What do you got on the Bears?
Yes, so absolutely. This is another fun time of the year in the spring for hopes and dreams and plans, because right now is the NFL free agency, and in just another month, the NFL draft. So this is the time when teams are kind of strategizing what they want to be and where they see themselves. The Bears had a solid season last year, not as great as some people are hoping. Of course, they fired their coach mid-season, first time ever. But they've hired an amazing young coach, the offense coordinator from the Detroit Lions, Ben Johnson. He was probably the #1 coaching candidate. Many teams wanted him. The Bears got him. So the Bears are looking really solid having that coach. That was the first big step. They've got this amazing young player, this great quarterback, and now they've got the young coach to go with them. So now they're putting all those other key pieces in place. In free agency, they focused on the offensive line. They got not 1, not 2, but 3 amazing interior offensive linemen to stick right into that line and protect that amazing quarterback. So that was a big move on the Bears. Many people picked the Bears as the best free agency results this offseason. They made the best choices using their money wisely and focused on an area that they really needed help on. It's not the flashiest area of the team, the offense and defensive line, but that's where the victories occur. You know, they say that games are won in the trenches. So the Bears have invested in the trenches. However, that being said, they also have the draft pick coming up. We'll see what the Bears choose with their draft pick. It's going to be an exciting draft. The NFL draft is right around the corner.
Adam, let me ask you about something that we've talked about before, but it's an issue. It particularly came up when Gavin Newsom actually seemed to question his previous comments about transgender athletes. It's a complicated issue. A lot of positive people are on both sides of the issue. What's your take on it lately in the world of sport and transgender athletes?
Well, a great question. And it is a really important thing to discuss. And it's tough for a lot of people to discuss because, you know, number one, people want safety. And there's this message of unfairness and unsafe conditions when you have trans athletes playing. And so, you know, number one, I love sports and I love the power of sports. And I love encouraging everybody to play as much as everybody can. Sports are a wonderful thing. It changes people. It brings people together. So we want to get more people playing, not less. But we absolutely want safety and we want fairness. And that's where a lot of these people are pushing for. And Gavin Newsom seemed to question as well. Well, the other thing that, along with freedom, that I believe very strongly in is I believe in science. And I believe in looking what the science has to say. And although there seems to be a simple, you know, two genders equation, so to speak, the science isn't so clear. When you actually study gender, those doctors and scientists who are experts on it say it's a little more fluid than just two. There are sometimes people born with various XY chromosome change differences. And so it's not as simple as that either. Neil deGrasse Tyson made a really good comment recently as he was being asked about this. And he said, really, if it has to do with strength, then what you really want to test, not so much chromosome as testosterone levels in the body. And that's a simple test. And that can be determined and then tested. But again, going back to freedom, I think ultimately it's up to the organizations, the athletes. They should be making these choices, not politicians. Let the athletes come together, make a choice, and go forward from there. And we as a society should understand and trust that when people make a choice, that we need to respect that. Now, again, going back to fairness and safety, because that is an issue. And some people are very, very concerned that trans athletes can seriously hurt a cis athlete. The evidence isn't so strong, though. The actual proof of such situations, occurrences, is not as clear. So again, I'm hesitant to create laws where laws aren't needed. I believe in less government, smaller government, not more. We've got lots of laws. What we need more is more law enforcement, you know, more being fair on those laws. And speaking of fairness, this would be the other thing that I would just point out, is that along with gender, there's another factor in fairness, and that's resources. There's no doubt about it that athletes who have better conditions for training, better resources, better facilities, better coaching, are going to improve more. And so we have to also consider how unfair it can be oftentimes economically for athletes. Some athletes are just getting a lot better exposure to the tools, resources, and coaching that's going to help them excel than others. So I'm 100% for fairness and wanting to, you know, find the right approach to the situation. And to me, the right approach is letting the athletes and the organizations choose. I think it's kind of odd when you see a gathering of young children around an old man writing on a piece of paper and saying that it's here to protect you, when really they're not so endangered. So I question that. But at the same time, I respect people's efforts to try to find a solution to a difficult situation.
Well, this is going to go endure this thing. It's going to go on for a while. We're figuring it out. Adam, in the few minutes we have left, I always look forward to your fitness tip of the month.
Yes.
And this month, I think you're going to talk about weight training. So let it rip.
Yes. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Again, springtime is the time of hopes and dreams and plans. So this is a great time for all of us to start thinking and planning for your fitness journey. If you're not already on it, I encourage you to take that first step. That's the key. The first step is the key step of the journey. Get started, get going, contact your local gym, YMCA, fitness facility in your community. Get out there, start walking in the park, doing something. But one of the best things to do for fitness training is weightlifting, resistance training. And a lot of people shy away from it, but it's so critical, especially for women. and seniors. As we get older, we lose muscle mass, and muscle mass is critical to healthy living. And so weight training is scientifically proven to be the one key way that you're going to improve muscle mass and physical conditioning. Weight training is something that can be fun and easy to do, but you might need some help. You might need some tips. So that's where a fitness professional comes in. I encourage people to reach out to your local gym and talk with a personal trainer, a fitness instructor, and getting advice and tips on how to do weightlifting properly.
And do you have any special exercises on the weights that you would recommend?
Well, yes, I do have a very specific way of training that is increasingly being recognized as the cutting edge sports specific approach to fitness training. And that's often called functional training. Now, actually, though, we like to say those who do functional training or teach functional training like to say this is not something new. It's actually ancient. You go back 100 years to a fitness center, to a gym. You would not see people sitting down on machines. You'd see people up and moving like they do in life and sport. Functionally, that's what functional fitness is, using free weights, cables, tubing, stability tools like those big giant balls and things like that. That's functional training. Non-functional training, or the training that I don't advise or recommend, is when you go and you sit on machines. Sitting on machines inherently relaxes your core and makes you less core efficient, but also it emphasizes something that we're all making a mistake on doing, and that is sitting too much. If you sit at your job and you sit at home when you're relaxing and you sit when you're going from job to home, the last thing you should do when you work out is sit.
Well, I'm going to have to switch my routine because at 83, I'm sitting down and doing most of those exercises. Okay, yes. Adam, that's going to be it for this week or this month. And I'll talk to you before you come on again. It's always good seeing you on our family Zooms. And you have a wonderful time out there in Los Angeles. And I know you've shared with us some of the experiences that people are having after those fires and floods and those kind of things. And I'm sure you'll keep us up to date on that and some filmmaking you're doing, as well as your sports tips. So we'll see you soon, brother. We'll be right back after a really, really short musical break. And we're going to bring on a fellow named Finn Halpern. And he is involved with Heirloom Books here in Rogers Park. And they're having an event on Allen Ginsberg and the poem Howl, a kind of anti-capitalist poem. We'll be right back.
There's a new sun rising up angry in the sky. There's a new voice crying, we're not afraid to die. Let the old world make believe it's blind and deaf and dumb, but nothing can change the shape of things to come. There are changes lying ahead in every road. There are new thoughts ready and waiting to explode. When tomorrow is today, the bells may toll for some, but nothing can change the shape of things.
Okay, welcome back, all you citizens of the world. It's time for the third segment of this week's Live from the Heartland. And I saw an announcement for a neighborhood bookstore called Heirloom Books, and they were going to have an event about Allen Ginsberg and his poem Howl. And I remember seeing Allen Ginsberg in my youth when I was at Berkeley, along with Ken Kesey. I remember reading Wichita's Sortek Vutra or Vutek Sortra, whatever that one is called. I don't think I ever read Howl, but I am glad to know that it's going to be presented, or a program about it is going to happen in my neighborhood. So we asked Finn Halpern to come on the show and tell us what's going on. Good morning to you, and fill us in.
Good morning. Yes, so us at Heirloom Books, we're a nonprofit used bookstore in Rogers Park. And I'm the event coordinator of Heirloom Books. I'm the one putting on this event for Howl, this celebration of a great American work. For those that don't know, Allen Ginsberg, the author, he's often credited as one of the founders of the Beat generation, Beat movement. This, accompanied by figureheads like Jack Kerouac and William S. Burroughs and Neil Cassidy. These great names in American literature. And if those who are unfamiliar with the idea of a beatnik or the Beat generation, this is a sort of anti-consumerist, very sort of like counterculture subculture that existed during like the 40s and 50s and eventually evolved into what we may know as hippies. They were so interesting and vibrant and creative and inclusive. And that's something that kind of drew me to them. So Allen Ginsberg very famously wrote this poem, Howl, sometime between 1954 and 1955, and read this poem aloud at the Six Gallery in San Francisco. Almost immediately after this reading in the Six Gallery in San Francisco, Ginsberg and the organizer of the event were charged with obscenity. There was a really big trial about the poem because it was so powerful and had so many images in it that were considered obscene at the time, specifically to do with like homosexuality and sodomy. Allen Ginsberg is gay. So there was a trial about the poem and eventually was found to not be obscene. But the poem gained so much popularity and moved so many people because it is, if those are people are unfamiliar, it is a series of extremely vivid and often surreal images that hit you over and over and over. Every line is just a new, strong vignette that comes from the genius of Allen Ginsberg. Just one after another, after another, after another. And it's one thing to read it, but it's another thing to hear it live, which a lot of people did at the Sixth Gallery when it was originally performed. And like how people will on March 30th at this event, where I will be performing it live to pay homage to this grand history of the oral tradition of the Beat generation. I have found that we need optimism in art. And I think that a lot of the feelings that we would find in the Beat generation are reemerging today. This capitalist disillusionment, this political rage, and the surreal creation or the surreal manifestation of our feelings in art is important. And it's something that I think a lot of people resonate with, especially in my new generation. I feel when I read Howl, a lot of these images from 50 years ago, half a century ago, maybe more, are back. Or are...
Yeah, they're back.
They're back. And so a lot of people struggle to find the words that speak to these strong feelings. And I'm like, I've got good news for you. Somebody already did a long time ago, and they published it out. So I would encourage those who are experiencing political rage and that capitalist disillusionment to seek out the Beat generation.
I'm really glad, I'm enthused that you are so enthusiastic about it. And, Howl has really come around. It was very controversial at first. It gradually has become recognized as a great work of American literature. It really calls out against societal constraints. I think it was Lawrence Ferlinghetti at City Lights Books who initially published it. And as you pointed out, they were all busted and there was a big trial about it. I'm also a fan of Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and I'll give you one line of one of his poems. Sometimes during eternity, some cats show up, and one who shows up kind of late is a kind of carpenter cat from some square-type place like Galilee, claiming that anyhow, it goes on. And I remember reading these things. I'm not sure I grasped what they all meant. What actually drew you to Ginsberg in the first place? Where did you discover him? Where did you find him?
I think I approached the Beat generation kind of backwards. I started with Bob Dylan. I liked Bob Dylan's lyrics, and Bob Dylan worked a lot with Allen Ginsberg, and some could describe him as maybe a second generation beat poet. But from there, I read On the Road and got really into Kerouac, Dharma Bums, the Subterraneans, and just immediately when I started, what the way I actually found him was I started looking up On the Road all of the character equivalents, right? So like Dean Moriarty is Neil Cassidy. So Carlo Marx in On the Road is the equivalent for Allen Ginsberg, even though Allen Ginsberg was never a communist. But still, I was interested to see, because I had read some of Neil Cassidy's stuff, and I wanted to get into the rest of the Beat generation, and so Ginsberg was a natural next step. And then I read Howl, and it was this like a mind-altering, life-changing experience, as it was for a lot of poets. Like, it is pretty well recorded that there are people who have read Howl, and it has drastically altered the way that they write and live, as was the case for me.
Well, Finn Halpern, give us the details one more time. I think it's March 30th. What day is that?
Sunday, March 30th, from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. at 6239 North Clark Street. That is Heirloom Books at 6239 North Clark Street.
I want to thank you for joining us. I'm looking forward to meeting you. And I want to thank everybody who tuned into the show today. I want to thank our guests, Finn Halpern, Katy Hogan, and Adam James. Once again, I'd like to share that this show doesn't, we have to produce it. It costs a little bit of money. And we encourage you to go to livefromtheheartlandshow@gmail.com if you'd like to help us out. We have a few rewards, a couple of my books, Rising Up Angry, Crossing Borders. Chip in if you can. We'll be back next week with some interesting stuff. Once again, thanks to Finn, thanks to Adam, and thanks to Katy, and certainly Hal James, our engineer, and our producers, Tom Clark and Katy Hogan. We'll be back next week. Do good in the world. The world needs all the good that you do, that I do, that we all do together. All power to the people. Over and out. We want to thank you for watching the Live from the Heartland show. New episodes air every Friday beginning at 9 a.m. Central Time. Episodes air each following Thursday on CAN TV, 9 p.m. in Sweet Home Chicago on Channel 21, or streaming everywhere else at cantv.org. Audio episodes go live on WLUW each Saturday, 9 a.m. on the left end of your dial at 88.7 FM, or streaming everywhere worldwide at WLUW.org. They're available on Apple and Spotify podcasts by looking up Live from the Heartland on either platform, and are also broadcast on Lumpen Radio each Friday at 9 a.m. on 105.5 FM and streaming at lumpenradio.com. I'm Michael James, and I'm glad to have been your host. Until next time, remember, do good in the world, because the world needs all the good that you do, that I do, that we do together. All power to the people. Over and out.
Come to limb. Are you doing the best you can? Tell me, are you doing